Welcome back to Cinema Flicks and Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the least, but the least. The least I can do today is apologize to Tyler Hagopian, because Zoom has gone absolutely bananas. First of all, Tyler is now the host. Wait, I think I'm the host again,
I
Tyler.
don't I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
Um,
Zoom has a mind of its own. It's
Zoom, yeah,
making decisions
Zoom
for us. I don't
Zoom
know.
wouldn't let me invite Tyler. I don't know why. It's obviously anti-American. I don't understand. Then it all of a sudden said the meeting was over because Tyler left. Tyler didn't leave. I left,
Yeah,
apparently, according to Tyler. And then it made Tyler the host, even though this is my channel. Oh,
gotta
well,
love it.
things can't go too well. So, hmm. Chicken salad out of chicken shit, Tyler. Let's do what we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, we weren't 50 minutes in or anything. So,
Yeah.
we are discussing underrated Neil Young. But what does that mean? Because underrated Neil Young can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So, underrated when it's an artist that's been reappraised so often, as Neil Young has, whereas older albums that were lambasted are now loved, or albums that were loved are now considered middle of the roads and not particularly interesting. Everything's in flux. So everything's got its fans. So we won't concentrate too much on the underrated aspect. We're really here to just appreciate albums, two albums, one each that we think deserves a little bit more of a spotlight in the Neil Young canon. Tyler, I think I know what you're going to pick. I'll be honest. Um, so yeah, take us away, Tyler. Apologies again.
No, you're fine, Davey. I don't know what the hell's going on with Zoom tonight, but all right. Here goes nothing for the second time. All right, all right, I mentioned this to Davey when we first started recording and we abruptly ended, but I'll pretty much say the same thing. This was a brutal task because if for anybody who knows Neil Young and knows his discography fairly well, you would probably know that his discography is fucking loaded. I don't even know how many studio records he has at this point. It feels like, especially in his latter half, he's just spitting out records left and right. Every single month, I feel like he's either releasing a record or announcing a release of a record because this is like it's a gigantic clusterfuck. You will lose your freaking mind if you try to rank these records. His discography is ridiculously high. So it was really tough to really break it down to one record. But I do feel confident with the record I did pick. And I think this record is very underappreciated. I don't see a lot of talk about this record much. But I don't see too much hate for this record either. But it's a record that almost seems forgotten about. Like, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But the record I decided to land on is a record coming out in 1978. I'm talking about Neil Young's Comes a Time. So this is a very interesting record. As I said before, there's not much talk about this record. It's a record that just seems kind of it happened and then it just kind of fucked off. But I think there's a lot of charm to this record. It's very dark. As far as the lyrics go, it's very dark. It has a lot of dark undertones. You know, Neil Young is really experimenting with the idea of depression, about heartache, so on and so forth. So, as far as lyrics go, and I want to really emphasize lyrics, the lyrics are very dark. However, the music behind Neil Young, a lot of these tracks, they're very upbeat. He's kind of doing this little bluegrass thing he's experimenting with. You know, you have a fiddler on here, and then that kind of brings me to my next point about this record overall. There are a lot of hands in the cookie jar. You know, if you really dig into this record and you really read the personnel, it is stacked with a bunch of different guitarists, bunch of different songwriters, and it's just the personnel on this record is ridiculous. You have Nicolette Larson, uh, sharing background vocals with Neil Young. And more on her later because I think she really takes this record to a whole other level. And I can't see this record being what it is without her. So I think she really knocks it out of the park, but more on her later. Producing, Neil Young is producing this record along with Ben Keith, Tim Mulligan, and David Briggs. But yeah, that's a little bit of the an overall idea of what you're getting with Comes a Time. My thoughts on this record: I don't think this is a perfect record. There's definitely some flaws to this particular record, but I do think that there is a lot to appreciate about this record as well. There's some really good songs. There's some songs that are like kind of like a come and go, kind of whatever. But there's one track that I fucking can't stand, and I will get to that track momentarily. But we are going to start off with a positive note with Going Back. Going Back opens up this record, and immediately you're going to think of Harvest 72. This is a particular track that can easily be taken right. You can put this track right on Harvest 72, and it wouldn't feel out of place. It really would remind you of Out for the Weekend. You the way that this track opens up, that particular riff, in particular that acoustic riff that opens up Going Back, immediately remind me of Out for the Weekend. But yeah, so that was a little treat for me because I love Harvest 72. But yeah, this is a laid back track. The lyrics are very dark on this track. As I've said before, you're gonna get a lot of dark undertones from this record. But yeah, the lyrics are very dark. I really like Neil Young's vocals. Guitar work I think is stellar on this track. I really like this particular guitar tone. The chorus, very punchy chorus. Chorus is beautiful. But yeah, that's a little bit of Going Back. It's just a nice laid back track to kick off what you're about to hear on Comes a Time. And in speaking of Comes a Time, the title track Comes a Time follows off Going Back. And this is not a folk track. This is a straight up bluegrass track. This track, this it's and this is one of it's kind of funny because this track is probably one of the most upbeat tracks off of this record. One of the most upbeat, I should say. And the lyrics are just so friggin' dark. This is one of the darkest tracks you're going to find off this record. But the music behind Neil Young is so upbeat. It doesn't feel out of place though. That's the funny thing. There's a lot of charm to this track. I don't think it feels out of place at all. Musically, I think it's actually genius. The lyrics are beautiful. I love the chorus on this track. The chorus kicks a lot of ass, and it will get stuck in your head quite often. But yeah, that's a little bit of Comes a Time. But yeah, it's just a straight up bluegrass track. I did not hear any folk on this track whatsoever. It's just a bluegrass. Musically, it's a very feel good track. Lyrics, maybe not so much. That's a little bit of Comes a Time. Then that follows up with Look Out for My Love, and this is going back to that laid back thing that we heard from Going Back. I really like the guitar work off this record. I mean, off of this track. The guitar work is stellar. I love the opening riff. Once this track kicks in, the riff is beautiful. But yeah, and also one thing other than the guitar tone is Neil Young vocally himself. There is a little, right, I would say halfway through this track, really takes you by surprise because this track it's going. It's very chill track, very laid back. But then about halfway through, Neil Young gets a whole octave up vocally. It's not like Freddie Mercury high pitched, but it's higher than what you would expect from Neil Young. And I think it really takes you by surprise, and I think it's a nice twist off this record. And then Neil Young kind of continues that almost quote unquote high pitched vocal range throughout the rest of this track. And it really does work. It's not like he's struggling to get to that high pitch range, but it works. I'll just put it that way. It definitely works. He's not straining his vocals. It's definitely coming naturally, and this is another really nice track. So yeah, that's a little bit of Look Out for My Love. Then we get to the track where I think it's kind of a filler track. We got A Lot of Love on here. So, and I know, Davey, I'm sorry, buddy. But A Lot of Love, this is a track that just kind of came and went for me. I don't find this track very interesting. I hate the chorus. The chorus is so freaking cringy. Gonna take a lot of love. And he just keeps repeating that same freaking stupid line over and over again. And it just irritates the hell out of me. And I was cringing the whole time. But every time I put on that track, it always makes me cringe. But I know I'm giving this song a lot of shit, and this is not the track that I fucking can't stand. We'll get to that track, but lot of love. This is a track that it's fine. It's just fine. Once it starts playing on my turntable, I'm not really pissed off. It's a fine track. That's all I can put. There's just not much there, if that makes a whole lot of sense. But then the filler ends, and possibly the best track off this record comes into play. Peace of Mind. This is the moodiest and darkest track off of this record. And I think that is exactly why this is my personal favorite track off of this record. So freaking moody. I love Nicolette's vocals on this particular track. The vocal harmonies are absolutely beautiful, both coming from Neil and coming from Nicolette. I think both artists kick so much ass on this track. Vocally, absolutely beautiful. Guitar work is stellar. There's a little bit of a snare drum I love, and that's a little nice twist to this track. It's so simplistic, but it's so friggin' effective. You hear this occasional snare. It's like do 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 do. I can't really describe it well. You're just gonna have to hear this track to see what I'm kind of talking about. But yes, there's a little snare, and it adds a little charm to this track. And then there's an occasional string section here and there, and that's very effective too. Very experimental track, but yet so simplistic and so freaking moody. This is a nice track, and I had a blast with this track. Well, I shouldn't say blast, but it sent chills up my spine. I'll just put it that way. And that is the perfect way to end side one. So overall, side one, you have a really, really strong side one. However, I do honestly think this album is very side one heavy. I think that there's a little dip in quality once we get to side two, and not a terrible. Well, one song in particular is terrible, but not a terrible side two. But this side kind of loses me a little bit. We get into it opens up with Human Highway. Now we're going back to the country thing again. The fiddle is back, and it's again, it kind of follows the same thing with Comes a Time, where the lyrics, but not musically, but the lyrics are very dark, very depressing, but behind Neil Young is very uplifting. This song is extremely catchy, very hooky with the guitar tones. But yeah, but then again, we heard this before in Comes a Time, the title track. You're not really doing anything new here. It's a track it's a fun track, it's a good track, but it's not a track that really, it's there. I'll just put it there. But once you start playing this track, you're going to have a good time with it. That's a little bit of Human Highway for you. That, and then you go into Already Won. And Already Won, it's another track where, it's going back to the moody thing. I would say it's very close to Look Out for My Love or Going Back, where it is very laid back and very stripped down. But again, same thing with Human Highway. You're not really doing anything new here. This is something we heard before. You're not doing, it's not taking you to another place on this record. So we've heard this before. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. For example, it's still a good track. I do like Neil's vocals on here, but then again, it just kind of comes and goes. It's fun. It's a fine track. Then you get into Field of Opportunities, and now we're back to the country thing.
Is this the one you hate?
Nope. Nope. It's coming up very soon, though.
Oh my god, you hate either Motorcycle Mama or Four Strong Winds? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep that a little surprise.
Better be Four Strong Winds.
Okay. All right. So, Field of Opportunities, and copy and paste everything I said about Human Highway and put it here. This is back to country. It's back to bluegrass. The fiddle is back. The fiddle is ripping on this track. Very catchy, very punchy, but again, it just doesn't do anything new here. It's everything we heard in Comes a Time and Human Highway. Everything I said, just copy and paste. Again, it's a good track. It's just not doing anything new. But still, fine track. Now,
Oh, it's Motorcycle Mama, isn't it?
Motorcycle
Mom.
Mama. This track can suck my white ass.
Oh, come
I
on.
hate this track to death. I fucking can't stand this piece of shit
Oh,
track.
come on.
So cringy. I hate the vocals on this particular track. The lyrics cheesy as all hell. This has no reason being on this particular record. This song can easily go fuck itself. I hate this track. The lyrics suck, the vocals suck. Everything about this track is just awful. Like I was cringing so much in my couch while this track is playing. Every single time I hear this track, I cringe every time and want to just throw this record against a brick wall because I get so pissed off. I hate this track to death. But yeah, Motorcycle Mama can go fuck herself. Like this track is freaking awful. But it's Motorcycle Mama. I can't stand this track, and this has no reason being on this album at all. God damn. God damn. After the after that abysmal track, we get into Four Strong Winds, and this is an Ian and Sylvia cover.
Yeah.
And this track, thank God, this is a beautiful track. And this makes me forget everything I heard about the pile of shit on Motorcycle Mama. It makes me forget about all that stupid shit. And this is just a beautiful cover. I actually prefer this version over the original. There's an orchestra coming behind Neil Young that really pushes this track to a whole other level. Vocally, it's absolutely beautiful, and I love the vocal harmonies. It's a very symphonic track, very melodic, and I think it's a perfect way to end this particular track, because side two you were getting a lot of either whatever tracks to abysmal tracks. This track just really it's one of my favorites off of this record, and thank God it gives me a small break after Motorcycle Mama. But and thank God it didn't end with Motorcycle Mama. It ended with this track, and I can lift the needle off of this record and feel happy. There you go. So that is my 50 cents off of Comes a Time. There are definitely some flaws with this record, as I mentioned, but I think there is overall a lot of charm. It feels like a very personal record to Neil Young. And lyrically, I think it's absolute genius. Some of his best lyrics are on this particular record, especially tracks like "Peace of Mind." That track is freaking beautiful. But yeah, that's my 50 cents on "Comes a Time," and that is why I picked this particular record for this discussion. I think this album it needs more attention. Again, I don't really see any negative comments or negative feedback from this record, but I don't really see anything too positive either. It's an album that, as I mentioned before when I first started this review, it's just an album that seems forgotten about. But I don't think it should have been forgotten about because I think some of his best work is on here. Overall, I know I'm rambling, but there's some flaws, but there's a lot of charm to this record. There's a lot of really good stuff to hear off this record. And I feel comfortable giving this record a 7.5 out of 10. And would I give this to a Neil Young fan starting out? Maybe not. It's not one of my favorite records from Neil Young, but I think this is a damn good record. And you're talking about an extensive discography. So as far as a ranking goes, I have no freaking idea where this album would land.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of charm. I do like this record a lot. 7.5 out of 10, I feel comfortable with. Not a perfect record, but it's a damn good record.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. I mean, you're right. That's why I've never done a ranking video on this channel, never will, because especially some of my favorite artists like Neil. How do I compare this to Ragged Glory? You know?
Yeah.
How do I compare Silver and Gold to Living with War? They're also entirely different. I mean, yeah, you can do small comparisons here and there, Harvest to Harvest Moon, or maybe Silver and Gold to Prairie Wind, that kind of thing, or Living with War to the Monsanto years. But as a discography, it's just it's too varied, it's too wild. A couple of things. Peace of Mind is the only track I've seen live from Neil on this album.
Yeah.
When I saw him in 2016, he played that, and
Oh, nice, nice.
it was it was one of those "Be Still My Beating Heart" moments because he hadn't played it in a hot minute,
Right, right.
and they played it along with "After the Garden" from Living with War, and it was like,
Oh,
oh,
nice. Okay.
take me now, take me now. This is just amazing. Yeah, phenomenal with the Promise of the Real.
Yeah.
Terrific, terrific
Thank
concert.
you.
A lot of love. I want to stick up for that track though. I really do.
I love that track to death.
Um, first of all, is a lot of love before Peace of Mind on your version?
Lot of love comes before peace of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got Peace of Mind then a lot of love.
Does a lot of love close side one for you?
Yeah,
Really?
sure there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Look at that. Yeah. Because I got, if you can see that. See.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you
That's
know what issue yours an OG or is it
Well, it's an OG, but a UK one. So
UKOG? Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
But hey, they're all there. That's the main thing. A Lot of Love was actually a much bigger hit for Nicolette Larson, who released her own version. Uh,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
she had the hit single with it. Relatively
Hmm.
speaking, it wasn't a smash, but it did well for her. And I love Neil's vocals all over that track.
Oh,
It's so tender and so vulnerable. You know, when
it is.
he's singing the. So if you are out there waiting, I hope
Yeah.
you show up soon. You know I
Yeah.
need relating. And then he goes, not solitude. I love that, and
Yeah.
the thing what I love about the whole record, especially the Nicolette parts, is that he's very much trying to do what Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris had done
Yeah.
earlier in the 70s. That kind of country duets idea. You know, not as obviously country as Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner, but you know, Graham Parsons and Emily would be a good example.
Yeah.
So you know, and that's why I like going back being the opener because it almost does feel like it is going back to something, you know, a bit. But you're right; it does get a little bit lost in the shuffle. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's because, I mean, it was a hit. It was a hit record.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it now becomes lost in the shuffle because it sits in between American Stars and Bars and Rust Never Sleeps.
It could. Yeah. It
That,
definitely could.
that's two pretty big records. I mean, you've Stars and Bars, I think, actually has quite a bit common with this. Some of the more country tracks at the start, the old Palomino and things.
I agree. Yeah.
But this is more, as you say, it's more consistently that kind of country-ish, offbeat, quirky bluegrass. It feels a bit more focused than I mean, you wouldn't get Like a Hurricane on here the way you would on Stars and Bars, but you do on Stars and Bars, and then Rust Never Sleeps is just, you know, that's almost like a rebirth.
Hmm.
So for my choice, we're going to stick with the idea of time.
Nice.
So rather than comes a time, we're going to go to Time Fades Away.
Good shit.
From 1973. Yes, because it's the one that followed.
Three. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that followed Harvest.
Mhm.
Have you own this one, Tyler?
I do not own that one actually.
Well,
It's on my list, but I haven't managed to find a copy of that one.
here's the one where I'll have to try and convince you then, not just talk about it, but try and convince you to go out and buy a copy.
Yeah, yeah,
So Neil's talked extensively about or it's been talked about the ditch, you know, the idea of the ditch, where Harvest, and in particular the number one record that was Heart of Gold, put him far too much in the middle of the roads, and he didn't like it there, so he headed for the ditch. And
yeah.
it meant much more interesting people along the way. So his next record would be a live record, Comes a Time. Uh, Time fades away. A lot of time going on tonight. Too much time, yet never enough. So Time Fades Away, live record of all new songs.
Yeah.
Which the audience obviously had not heard before, and it's very much not in the Harvest vein. So you'd think if he was going to do that, he would do it with he'd done it before, where he debuted new songs live. Like the recent bootleg series releases have had versions of like Dance, Dance, Dance and things.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they're easy enough for an audience to pick up on. This is not easy for an audience.
No, not at all.
This is incredibly dark. It's produced by Elliot Mazer and Neil
Yeah.
Young. And the band here is the Stray Gators back from Harvest, but they ain't the same Stray Gators. So you've got Tim Drummond, you've got Johnny Barbatas here. He replaced Kenny Buttrey because Kenny Buttrey quit halfway through the tour. Jack Nietzsche's on here and Ben Keith. And Crosby and Nash show up as well.
Yep.
But that makes it sound like, okay, so you've got pretty much the band from Harvest and Crosby and Nash are here. Must be a pleasant listen.
Oh, should be, right?
Oh boy, no. So Daniel Whitten was supposed to be in this band too. And Neil sent him home and said, "You're in no fit condition. You're strung out on heroin." And as we know, Daniel Whitten overdosed the same night he was sent home. So Neil's already on a hell of a downer over that situation. During rehearsals, Kenny Buttrey says, "Wait a minute, we're the crack session guys in Nashville. If you want us to tour for 3 months, you have to give us a ridiculous amount of money." At the time, it was like 150 grand each for the backing band, because we could make that just sitting in our arses in Nashville. So why should we tour around the country and blah blah blah? So Neil was pissed off at the band. And what happens when you give traveling musicians in their 20s a lot of money and send them off around the country? Ooh, glug, glug, glug. So, yeah. So it turns into the Ditch trilogy is very well named for a reason. It is the time of overindulgences, to say the least. And then Neil has another disaster where his favorite guitar, All Black, that plays for decades and decades, just breaks down on him, just completely fucks up. So I think he lost a pickup, something like that, and it was going to take too long to repair it without kind of jeopardizing the sound and whatnot. So he switched to a Flying V, which is the least Neil Young instrument possible.
God, no.
Yeah. So he's gone from a 53 Gibson Les Paul to a Flying V, which is just, wow. On stage, Jack Nietzsche was shouting at the audience with the microphone turned off. The band Ben Keith was inebriated and didn't know what key some of the songs were in when they started playing them. But Neil being Neil, he records it and releases it anyway.
Of course, yeah.
So now this all sounds like I'm building up to disaster here. Neil in the Decade compilation, the triple album compilation from 77, I want to say, just called Decade. He says, and I've got a quote here, "Time fades away. No songs from this album are included here. It was recorded on my biggest tour ever. 65 shows in 90 days. Money hassles among everyone concerned ruined this tour and record for me, but I released it anyway, so you folks can see what happens if you lose it for a while. I was becoming more interested in an audio verity approach than satisfying the public demands for a repetition of Harvest." So that's very much the mission statement of the Ditch trilogy, if you want to call it that, where he wants to see what a sound is like. Just these are actual feelings rather than, oh no, it needs to sound nice, it needs to sound proper and whatnot. But the strange thing is, he comes up with some amazing tracks because it's Neil Young. And even these guys, when they're out their faces, can't help but be pretty talented musicians.
Oh, of course, yeah. Right.
So we've got Time Fades Away, the title track, which is like this dark boogie rocker. Is very much not Out on the Weekend. Is very much not Tell Me Why.
Not even close.
Neil sings in this ragged voice. I mean, he's singing, the first lines of it are 14 junkies too weak to work. One sells diamonds for what they're worth. Down on Pain Street, disappointment lurks. So, you're talking I don't think we're in Kansas anymore here. You know, we're not singing about Heart of Gold anymore.
No,
Things are
no.
way darker. And he's singing about how in Canada he spent his days riding subways through a haze, and his mum was just worried that he'd be back by 8 o'clock and things. But then we get one of his most beautiful songs ever, ragged or not, in terms of the album, one of his most beautiful songs ever, Journey Through the Past, which has become, it doesn't play it very often, but it's just become a Neil Young standard from compilations and just
Right,
fan favorites, the way these things do.
right.
So recorded in Cleveland. That's in a place called Ohio. I don't know if you know it. Nah, it means nothing to me either, Tyler. I know.
I heard a bunch of assholes live in Ohio.
Yeah, I know. It's not one of your good states like Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So hi Ryan.
Subject curly-headed fuck.
I mean, Neil introduces it literally as this is a song without a home, and that's
Yeah.
fascinating because this album. Do you know when this album came out in CD individually?
I am unaware.
3 weeks ago.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am. So it was
Really?
released on Neil's re-release series where he's doing all the albums in order alongside the archives on vinyl in 2014. In 2017, I think it's called the original release series.
Yeah.
In 2017, there was a CD issue of a little box set of 4 CDs, and that was one of them. But the
Hmm.
first time it was ever released on its own as a CD, September the 19th last month. Ever.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Isn't that nuts? Isn't that nuts?
Jesus.
Yeah, insane. It's just like On the Beach. That never came out until 2004.
That took a while too, yeah.
Yeah. So if Neil doesn't want something to come out, it really doesn't come out. So
Um,
a song without a home indeed, because it took nearly 50 years for that track to come out in CD and be able to be in shops as a standalone.
hmm.
It's a beautiful piano ballad when he's singing, I'm going back to Canada on a journey through the past. I won't be back till February comes. I will stay with you if you stay with me, said the fiddler to the drum, and we'll keep good time on the journey through the past. It's just a lovely little song.
Yeah.
There's no malice to it whatsoever. And the music is, it's like this could be on one of his so-called nice albums. Though, as you say, I think people often misconstrue the niceties of Neil Young's music with the lyrics. I think they don't always mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most beautiful music has got the darkest lyrics. You understands the sinner. Um, Starts with someone shouting. I think it's Neil shouts. This one's kind of experimental, and someone else shouts, "Good though, good." It sounds like one of the really boozy tracks from Tonight's the Night. Do you
Yeah.
understand the singer? It sounds like trying to think of what it would sound like from that. Got that kind of mid part of the album, like um, hmm, maybe even the title track of Tonight's the Night.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's got that very much, or even Revolution Blues or something like that. It's got a kind of heaviness to it or a,
Yeah.
a darkness to it, and then
Absolutely.
from On the Beach.
Hmm.
It's certainly got a real dark feel and a real depressingly dark feel to it.
Absolutely.
And Neil rips his vocal cords. You can hear him. You were mentioning he can go up an octave and things. Here he doesn't. He is pushing it as hard as he can, and it's a wonder he can sing after it. You can hear his voice actually crack, and then he
Yeah.
keeps going up. And that's why for the last couple of weeks of the tour, he had to recruit Crosby and Nash because he literally couldn't do the vocals.
Mm.
Literally couldn't finish them himself.
Yeah.
LA is a kind of fantasy version of imagining how he could destroy Los Angeles because he's always had that love-hate relationship with it. It's the place that brought him money and success.
Right.
It hates the falseness. It hates the plastic nature of the whole thing and the record business.
Right.
But it seems to quite enjoy the idea of it being destroyed, and it's very much like Downtown from Tonight's the Night, which was the Crazy Horse track with Danny Whitten. Come on, baby,
Yeah.
let's go downtown. It's got very much that kind of feel, but with a cool slide part in it as well. Which again, Neil playing slide on Flying V, it just does not compute in my head. It does
No.
not compute.
No.
Love and Mind was recorded at Royce Hall, which, as we know, one of the bootleg series recently was, but this was a different one. It's a gorgeous piano ballad. In fact, looking at the dates, January 30th, 1971. This is the same version for the bootleg series, isn't it? January 30th, 1971, Royce Hall. Yeah, so that's the same one from the bootleg series. So that's
Yeah.
quite interesting. So he picked a track that was 2 years older than anything else on here. That's quite interesting. It should be another lovely piano ballad, but he's singing about churches preaching sex is wrong, Jesus, where has nature gone? What am I doing here? What am I doing here? It's kind of desolate track. As you said, it sounds like it should be a nice piano-y thing, but it's really an existential plea for like, where am I and what's my place in the world?
Yeah.
Side two,
Right.
Don't Be Denied, is that was the name of a BBC documentary about Neil that aired about 10 years ago. This is ridiculously autobiographical for a guy who's got a lot of songs that are about his past and his childhood and things. It's one of my favorite Neil Young tracks of all time. Don't Be Denied.
Definitely.
It writes
Yeah.
from very much his childhood right through to the disillusionment with the fame business. The band are so ragged and so intense, and with the drums absolutely insane. Just bang, bang, bang. There's no finesse at all. It's just boom, 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 bang, bang, bang. When I was a young boy, my mama said to me, "Your daddy's leaving home today. He's gone to stay." We packed up our bags and drove out to Winnipeg. You know, I mean, it's
Right.
very much wow. You know, that's how you're starting this side of the records, like your daddy leaving you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, goes right through to all that glitters isn't gold. Yeah, I know you've heard that story told. I'm a pauper, a naked disguise, a millionaire through businessman's eyes. Friend of mine, don't be denied. So
Mhm.
he's kind of saying, oh, none of this really matters if you're not happy. You can be bullied at school, you can be your parents can walk out, or you can be a millionaire. It doesn't matter. You can still be unhappy, or you can be happy, conversely. So
Mm.
it's a brilliant track. It's an
Yeah.
absolute sensational track. Only two more to go because it is only an eight tracker. The bridge, which gave its name to the concerts that he does every year, the bridge concerts that
Yep.
he organizes. Um,
Right.
starts with harmonica, and that must have made some people go, "Oh, we're back."
Oh yeah.
Well, not
Of
really.
course.
um, so it's still very dark and brooding. Even the way he's playing the piano here, it's not got that nice harvest light touch of when will I see you again? It's not got any of that kind of stuff. It's very
Sure.
much just boom, boom. It's not far off the way Jerry Lee Lewis would batter a piano into submission, pretty much.
Right.
But it is still a lovely lyric about the bridge will build it now. It may take a lot of time and it may be lonely, but the bridge was falling down and that took a lot of lies and it made me lonely. The bridge was falling, the bridge was falling. It's a song about an early relationship, which, as we know at this point, there were quite a few that the bridges were built and then fell apart. Probably about the time that he was breaking up with Carrie Snodgrass. So yeah,
Mm.
track eight, Last Dance, is wow. It's the longest track in the album. It's an 8 minute 40 seconds or something like that.
Mm.
And Ragged Glory is obviously the name of the album that came out in 1990, but it could describe this song perfectly because it is indeed Ragged Glory. It's before punk, obviously, but it's got more piss and vinegar than 10 Johnny Rottens.
Yeah.
You can almost hear Neil's punk attitude that he would start to wake up to, and like Rust Never Sleeps, you can hear that starting here.
Mm-hmm.
He's singing, you wake up in the morning, the sun's coming up. It's been up for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. He just keeps repeating that same bit over and over again.
Mm.
And the orange juice is cold, 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 and it just keeps repeating lyrics.
Right.
The way it comes off is just this disenfranchised, like I can't even be bothered finishing this song. That's how much I'm not interested. But not in a disdainful way towards the listener, just in terms of his emotions or saying that. It's like I can't bother coming out with poetry here. So I'm just gonna write whatever. It's that's his state of mind. It's
Mm.
it's, it's very much a you can make your own life, making it happen, working on your own time, laid back and laughing. And then the outro is just him shouting, no, 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 for about 3 minutes while his guitar's wailing. And then he's shouting, sing it with us. And people are going, no, no, no. It's the most bizarre outro. And then he starts going, negative, negative. And it almost sounds like something like the Sex Pistols or Johnny Rotten would do with Anger
Yeah.
is an Energy
Definitely.
from
Right.
Pill. And then it just fades in. Again, time fades away. It's a disgracefully recorded record if you're someone who just wants the Harvest sound. If you
Right.
think that Neil Young should only stick to Harvest, then first of all, you must have a very short Neil Young collection. But second of all, by God, this isn't for you. But for
No.
anyone who's interested in the mind of Neil Young, the heart of Neil Young, the soul of Neil Young, and what success can do to an artist,
Mm.
and how it can be fulfilling and not fulfilling, and how it can change you in bad ways, and people just start to shake you down for cash, and all of a sudden the band want more money, and
Yeah.
all sorts from top to bottom. You've got more money to spend on the drugs and the booze and blah blah blah, and people are dying because of that kind of stuff, and it's not so funny anymore. It's not just a bit of dope.
Mm.
Um, yeah, then time fades away is just it's the first step towards On the Beach and Tonight's the Night, which were recorded. They released the other way around, but it was Tonight's the Night and then On the Beach the way it was recorded.
Right.
So to me, it's a Neil Young masterpiece. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. And
That's fair.
the only reason it wouldn't get a 10 is because I just think that there are just a few more that have got a little bit more memorable tracks on them, but maybe
Sure.
not as personal. So it's not much of a point off, to be honest. But yeah, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. So
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah. So did you have any honorables, or did you not put? Did you not think?
I do actually have one honorable.
Mm,
So this is the record that was very, very close to the record I was going to present. I decided with Comes a Time, but this record and Comes a Time were very close together. I was going to initially talk about, if I can get it out, Neil Young's debut record,
mhm.
coming straight out of Buffalo Springfield. And yeah, I think this is another fantastic Neil Young record. Um, the only reason why I decided to go with Comes a Time over this record is because I feel like Comes a Time it's a lot less talked about than this particular
Mhm.
record. This record is still I feel like needs a lot more appreciation than it does. Again, same thing with Comes a Time where you don't hear anything too negative, but you don't hear anything too positive either. This is just kind of like a forgotten debut from Neil Young.
I think you
But
made
yeah,
the
this
good. I think you made the right choice because that record's at least got the loner to pull it
yeah.
up a little bit.
As the loner, yeah,
So
yeah,
people will always check
yeah.
it out to see where the loner comes from.
But yeah, yeah, you have the loner, which is pretty much the biggest hit off this record, and probably the only hit off this record.
Yeah, not
But
even
you
that.
have If I Could Have Her Tonight, you have I've Loved Her So Long, I've Been Waiting for You. So
Yeah.
you do have a lot of really good tracks off this record, and this is a fantastic debut. I think Neil Young has created much better records, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But this is a fine debut. I think this debut definitely serves its purpose and definitely should be a lot more talked about. So yeah, that's pretty much my only honorable. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So the only honourable, and I forgot to pull it out, beg your pardon, but the only honourable I was going to mention, and then I listened to it and thought, I still think it is underrated because if you see the lists, it's always near the bottom, not quite at the bottom, but near the bottom, because it came out in the mid 80s. And to me, it just feels a bit lazy to put any Neil Young mid 80s album at the bottom,
Yeah.
just assuming that it must be crap. It's Life from 1986.
Life. Okay.
I really like Life. It's got Inca Queen is the big crazy horse epic on it. And then it's got this great track that sounds incredibly 80s, but I don't mind because it's so hypnotic, called When Your Lonely Heart Breaks.
Yeah.
And it's such a sparse track. I mean, it's literally when you're lonely, heart breaks. When you're lonely, boom, and then just picks up a little bit. I mean, the most over the top moments on it are just a little bit faster than that.
Right.
It's
Right.
absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, but I thought, yeah, the two underrated tracks make an underrated album. Probably I could make a case for it, but
Sure.
hey, we've got plenty of YouTube and we've got time on our side.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So Tyler, thanks very much for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. This was
No,
awesome.
do give yourself a plug. LP Tremors is where Tyler can be found. There will of course be links, but Tyler, what's happening?
So yeah, I do have a personal channel, LP Tremors. It kind of fucking sucks, but
No, no,
I
no.
think you'll be fine. If you want to see some cringy shit, just jump on my channel. But anyway, I do have my channel, LP Tremors. Um, the we myself, your beautiful host, Davey Gallagher, and our buddy Ryan Gavalier over at Ryan's Vinyl Destination. I have those two men onto my channel to discuss Friday the 13th. So we are discussing every single movie from 1980 original all the way to the remake. We just finished part 5, A New Beginning, and in a couple weeks from now we are going to be talking about Jason Lives, the 6th installment of the franchise. But yeah, we are just going to be reviewing every single movie from the first one to the 2009 remake. It's been an absolute blast so far. I mean, I can't speak for Davey, but it's been a blast for me at least. It's a great time, and yeah, it's a blast. If you're a Friday the 13th fan, definitely give that a shout. Um, Another thing, Buddy Guy released a new studio record. What was it? Sometime last week, Friday, I think it was. And I did a full review off that record, and that obviously that video is out right now. So if you are a Buddy Guy fan, if you want to know about the Blues Don't Lie, definitely give me a shot because that video is out right now. And anything else? My whole thing is just anything music related, anything horror related. So I'm all about vinyl and horror. Everything that's to do with vinyl, everything that's to do with horror, or just music in general, whatever. That's kind of what I am. Just everything I love, music, horror. But yeah, that's about it. I think. I don't know. A lot of my shit is spur of the moment. If I need to talk about, if there's a record that I want to talk about, I'll just get my laptop set up, and then shoot it. But other than that, yeah, I don't think I have too much going on. But yeah, LP Tremors.
So, folks, check out LP Tremors because that Buddy Guy review brings eyesight to the blind. I tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. It is um, immensely entertaining because Tyler's infectious with his adoration for Buddy Guy. It is tremendous. So please check that video out. Subscribe to LP Tremors, and I suppose we better throw a plug out for our boys since we've mentioned them twice. And Ryan's Vinyl Destination.
Right.
Because Ryan and yourself, your lovely self, will return here on Friday, where we will start the series on Re-Animator, the 1980s horror comedy franchise. So a nice mini series once a month, but you'll see that on Friday going into Saturday. So Tyler, once again, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
No, thank you for having me. This was an
Thank,
absolute blast.
well, thank you.
Great idea. I mean, even though you made me sweating by this idea because I didn't know what the hell I was going to pick.
Yeah, I mean that's why. I mean
It's a
that's why
blast.
I didn't double down too much in the underrated aspect because
Yeah,
everything's underrated to somebody and everything's overrated to somebody. I mean, you could
right.
make a case that if you think Harvest is the best album ever, then it might be overrated for other people,
Might
even
be
though it's
overrated.
Harvest.
Yeah,
So it is what it is.
it is what it is.
And hopefully the next Neil Young record will be the best one ever because that's what you always have to hope for.
You never know.
We do have the new one coming out with Crazy Horse in just over
Yep,
a month's time, so that'll be. Although you can pretty much say that anytime, can't you? There's a new Neil Young coming in. So.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Tyler, thanks again, buddy, and
No, thank you, thank you.
everybody watching. Stay very safe out there, and love and mercy, and stay very safe. Stay very metal.
That works.
Okay.
I'll take it.
I like it.
I like it. Yeah.
Folks, good night. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.